sweet twilight zone.
See it occur, and you look at Steph and Clay, and even Draymond with his lack of.
Has it 2 in a row. 7 points for him. The twirling Doncic. Melting into the defense. The front Curry strikes. Swing, fly ball. Well hit left center. Ronald Acuna has homer. Rookie rushing record for the Steelers.
Look, he came into this game averaging 3.67 yards per carry. 42nd out of 49 qualified rushers.
To begin the third quarter. It has been incredible. Here he comes again. Oh, goodness. And a Greek basketball god. And he was a great guy that teaches the
Uh-oh.
Bobby's frozen. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Rally Towel Sports. This is Dingers, Dunks, and Drives presented by, of course, Rally Towel Sports and the Mafia Sports Report. We're going to hide Bobby off the stream here just for a moment until he – and now he's back.
And he's muted.
And he's
Bobby,
muted.
you're muted.
And his mic is not working. Something's going on. There you go, Bob.
You had me muted. I was doing a whole intro, and then I realized you guys were frozen. I'm like, what the hell is happening?
You were frozen.
You were frozen, dog.
Sir, you in fact were frozen?
Damn.
We were all having a conversation.
Sick. I love that. That's fantastic.
It's all good, baby. You're back. We can go ahead. Let's hold on. Let me bring us in. Ready? 3, 2.
Oh, he just froze again.
He froze again. This is all right. We're gonna get started.
Great stuff, guys.
Yeah.
Good radio. Ladies and gentlemen,
Look, if you're
again,
watching though, look at that face.
Look at that face. Look at that joyous face that you could catch only on the Facebook or YouTube stream right now. Welcome to Dingers, Dunks, and Drives. I am Corey. All right. I think I need to get him back, though. I think I need to take him out. Oh, here we go. He's coming back. Welcome to Dingers, Dunks, and Drives. I am Corey. With me tonight is Todd, Aaron, and Bobby in spirit for right now, but he will be joining us here in just a moment. Fellas, how was our week? How was our weekend? I mean, what a great weekend of football, first of all. But outside of that, how's everybody doing?
Great. Look, man, my Cats beat Tennessee in Knoxville. It was a beautiful game. I mean, that's the best they played all year. Then Oscar Tshiebwe comes out last night and drops 34 and 27. So,
you feeling better?
No, not really. No, I mean that could. So in the Tennessee game, I think that the thing that needs to be noted is that, and this is my NCAA college basketball stat of the night. Tennessee missed 7 shots inside of 5 feet that were uncontested. Kentucky won by 7.
If it makes you feel any better, the Florida Gators opened tonight's game 1 of 12, missing 10 straight field goal attempts. So pretty cool. Anyway, Bobby, I'll hand the reins back to you. It is your program.
I don't know. Every time you do, I freeze and time out. So
he's back.
Okay. So where
we're just going to enjoy the moments that we have. We're just bullshitting. We're going to enjoy the moments that we do have you here. We're gonna smile because it happened, not cry because it's over, kind of thing.
Okay, fair enough.
Put that on a fucking flag.
Jesus, how do you even follow that? All right, so my beautiful intro obviously was not heard, but that's okay. We've got wrap up on Wild Card Weekend in the Divisional Round. Todd and Corey sitting at the top of the playoff leaderboard at 5-1.
Good job, Todd.
Aaron, you and I are at 4-2.
Yep.
Fucking Cowboys, man.
Yeah. What the fuck happened? What happened to Tom Brady? Is he done? Like that post game? Like it kind of, I don't know. What do you guys
I think
think?
he's done in Tampa.
I think he's done in Tampa.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw it this past offseason with the Dolphins. Everybody else there's all these rumors about Sean Payton and Brady going somewhere together. Plus he's divorced now. So whatever the fuck he wants.
He's relocatable. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. He's like, just anywhere that's got receivers and a coach, let me know.
Defense would be good too.
Yeah, I was gonna say where does that land him though, right? Who needs a quarterback where he's gonna come in and they're gonna number one let him call the offense, and
The
number
irony,
two
Denver.
I know, right? Like that makes the most sense. It really does make the most sense.
Like
I mean,
makes so much sense. Their defense is amazing. They have great young receivers.
Okay, let me float this out here. New York.
Which one?
the Jets.
The Jets. The one not in the playoffs.
Yeah, sure, but I
don't see him ever wearing a Jets uniform.
Just like Brett Favre would never be a Viking.
That's true. All right,
it's fair.
I stand corrected.
You know, I'm just saying, like, if you look at the weapons that they have, Brees
right.
Hall's going to be back next year. Garrett Wilson, Corey Davis, maybe.
Unbelievable.
And then that defense is nuts. I mean, they've got a lot of good pieces around there.
They do.
Whether or not
he's super young too.
Yeah, but in whether or not the personality of Tom Brady, ultimate alpha male of all time, and Robert Saleh, ultimate alpha male in weight, can mesh. That's a question that, I'm not sure I know the answer to. But I mean, Vegas makes a lot of sense. His old offensive coordinator is sitting out there. He has the best wide receiver in the league up until last year.
San Francisco. He's from there.
San Fran makes a lot of sense, but
I mean, Purdy is, that's all great, but I think you could stick with Brady for 1 year and then go back to Purdy. I don't think you'd ruin him.
But then what do you do with Trey Lance and Jimmy G? Do you just deal them?
Well, Jimmy G is
G's
easy.
gone.
Yeah, Jimmy G's gone. The Trey Lance thing will be very interesting because I think the 49ers could take a redo. I think they'd just stick with Purdy regardless.
I honestly think that right now could be. I mean, who knows what the trajectory of Purdy's career is going to be?
Hall of Fame, dude.
Yeah. If you're going to get an opportunity to bring in a guy like Tom Brady, his trade value will never be higher. will Purdy's? I mean, you dish him now, you could get a first, maybe a second round pick for this guy. Dish him out to somebody like a Carolina or somebody that is willing to take on or has the ability to take something like that on. You sit Trey Lance behind Tom Brady for the remainder of Tom Brady's career. I think that's a good tutor, a good guy to learn behind. And then when Tom Brady's out,
it's funny because I hear everything you're saying. I would do it the exact opposite way.
Right.
I would trade Trey Lance and have Purdy stick behind.
What if you go win a
for
Super Bowl?
Huh?
With Brock? What if you win a Super Bowl with Purdy?
Oh, well, then I'm not worried about Tom Brady at all.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely fair.
I think from everything that I've heard and seen from the players in San Francisco is they all like Purdy a lot. They said he commands.
Yeah,
the
he's
team.
winning.
He's not a. No, I just mean like he commands the respect. Like he doesn't carry himself as like Mr. Irrelevant, a 7th round pick in the draft. He carries himself like a top prospect, like he's the best guy on the field. And I obviously he's not the best athlete on the field, but he's making some good plays and managing the games for San Francisco. So
he hasn't lost, has he?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I have some points to make about that once we get to the Cowboys game because I think there's a little bit more to this than Brock Purdy being goated already.
Just absolute stud.
Is anybody shocked at the Vikings Giants game?
I think we all picked that, right?
We all picked
Bobby
the Giants.
didn't, but
no, I took the Vikings on a flyer, even though Vegas was for the Vikings. I
bet on the Giants money line this week too, and I got nervous because it seemed like a classic case of, well, why is everybody on this train? Like, Don't get me wrong, I think the Vikings. I think there's a reason everybody picked against the Vikings, and we saw it. We saw that this weekend. But it was like in the back of my head, I'm like, everybody is saying this underdog is going to win. That doesn't really make him an underdog anymore, does it?
Mm-hmm.
I got a little nervous, but it came out that way, and I'm glad.
Yeah, well, I think eventually the luck just runs out, right? I mean, I think that's the classic example here in Minnesota. You could only just have the coin flip to your side so many times in a year, and then I think really just Daboll just outcoached Kevin O'Connell too. I think that was a big thing, and we talked about Daniel Jones last week and him earning his way into another short-term deal with the Giants. I think he really solidified that for himself last week. He was an integral part of them getting to the first down marker multiple times, whether it was over the air or with his legs. I believe he had over 70 yards rushing. He didn't quite get to 250 yards passing, if I'm not mistaken. I think he got just below that in that game. But, I mean, he was moving the ball up and down the field. And now the Vikings defense is bad. We've talked about that too. But, I mean, he was in the driver's seat the whole game, right? I don't think there was ever a point in time, and Bobby, maybe you can, I mean, I had a few beers by that point in time, but I never felt like that the Vikings were even remotely close to getting back into that game. I think we talked about multiple times that the Giants were in the driver's seat.
Yeah. You guys it was an impressive feat what him and his wife accomplished on Sunday.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Go ahead.
If Todd hasn't shared already.
No, he hasn't. I'm interested.
I got there.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, you go ahead. You tell the story. Maybe it's better from another perspective.
I got there, and I brought my my 8-pack of like 16-ounce Bud Lights, just because it was a better deal at the gas station. And long story short, I get there. I'm going to put everything in the fridge. The top shelf's completely full, front to back, left to right, all the way. White Claws, any kind of drink, you name it. Todd texted us the next day and said, that he had drank the whole shelf. And I was like, there's no way. And then I call him and I'm like, there's no way you guys got through that shelf. He's like, yeah, we not only got through the shelf, I drank all the Bud Lights that you left. And they finished up the Jello shots that we had for New Year's that we left over.
Surprise. Guess who felt like shit Monday morning.
So epic fucking day of drinking.
That's honestly, I'm not even mad. That's impressive.
Dude,
That's exactly what I said.
Here's the thing. This is what I mean, we're all in our 30s now, but as I've gotten into my early 30s here and tried to perfect the craft of day drinking, I drink enough beers by 6 o'clock. I'm like, fuck, let's rock and roll. Let's just ride this pony out until the wheels fall off. Next thing you know, it's 11:30. You got pizza getting DoorDashed to your front door that you don't remember ordering, and you have to wake up for work the next morning. You're like, oh shit, I gotta be an adult. I gotta make responsible decisions with not my money.
Oh man, that sounds like a 2-dayer for sure.
Yeah, you know what? By yesterday morning, I woke up. I elected not to go to the gym Monday and Tuesday to give to rehydrate my body because I clearly dehydrated myself of any.
That's what you want to do after a bunch of pizza, beer, and alcohol is just not go to the gym. Well, I think any doctor will tell you that.
Look, I mean, if you're gonna go in there and you have wasted calories, you're wasting a workout.
I'm just kidding.
That's the rules of the weights. But I've just learned that. And as I've gotten into my 30s, that I day drink thinking that I can go to bed at when Declan goes to bed and I'll be ready to go in the morning. But I think I drink better now than I did in my 20s.
You're just more of a machine at this point. You're conditioned at this point, Todd.
Yeah.
Then you wake up. The worst part, the anxiety is the worst thing for me the next day. You're just like, I feel like I did something terrible yesterday. Don't know what it is, but I just feel like I did. And I know I didn't, but you just feel like you did.
Yeah.
Yeah. For all our younger listeners out there in college, like, what the fuck are these douchebags talking about? Just wait. Just you fucking wait. It's coming. It's coming. Just like the divisional round.
There's something magical after you turn 30 when it comes to drinking. It punches you in the face. You can drink a lot more, but it hits you a lot harder.
I'm on the complete other side of the court. So I'm doing the dry January, right? And every time I do this, I'm always like, oh yeah, I feel so like my, wake up every day. I'm not hungover. I should do this. And then the second it's like February 1st, I'm like, let's go buy a bottle of bourbon.
Let's go.
Bringing out the Franzia bag, smacking the bag, saying, let's rock and roll, baby.
All right. Well, let's get to these games. First game on the board, we've got the Jags headed to Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs. Jags coming off an absolutely incredible win last week, down 27-0 against the Chargers. coming out at halftime, and just what an absolute game. I had a $25 bet right on that game, and it paid 140. So
It's not bad.
no, it was pretty solid. It was all because the Jags came back. That doesn't happen if the Jags don't win. So,
dude, what a fucking awful first half! Like that
terrible.
is,
Yeah.
I
the
don't
first
know that,
three
like,
drives, pick.
It was
to the
terrible.
same guy,
Absolutely,
Asante Samuel Jr.
yeah. What a fucking day for him, but then what a night as well. I'm sure he was not having a good time, dude. That is like. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about these wild card games since we've only got 4 games to talk about later tonight.
Yeah,
but
true.
I want to kind of hone in on the Chargers. They are who I thought they were, and they proved it in that game, man. Chargers gonna Charger. Is Brandon Staley gone too, do you think, or have they made all of the cuts that they're going to make
I think
at this point?
I think they've made all the cuts.
Yep.
It's too late. It's too late to go to the fire your coach party, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
For the Chargers,
you've already made your headline. You fire the guy. You fire the guy that's not getting the ball in the end zone, right? That's the point I've made about the Chargers' offense throughout this entire year.
Well, you said it's Justin Herbert, not Joe Lombardi.
Well, Justin Herbert is manning the offense, right? So he had one passing touchdown, and they scored 27 points.
Mm-hmm.
Why does Austin Eckler have to get the ball in the end zone? How are they not making bigger plays in the air? And if you look at the offense and the way and Lombardi's offense and the way it's ran, it's not designed for Herbert to throw the ball in the end zone.
So what do you just bigger deep threats? There's not
very few sick.
Oh, we're losing Todd here a little bit. Some spotty Wi-Fi there, Todd. Sorry, buddy.
There's some weather rolling through Columbus right now.
Yeah. Super windy. So I think the big thing is that I think Lombardi's offense was wrong for Justin Herbert. And then that equates to Justin Herbert not getting the ball in the end zone. That's kind of my parallel here. So what do? You don't get rid of Justin, get rid of the guy that's calling the plays. That's the much easier solution to the problem. So now you got to bring somebody in who's going to fit the offense to Justin Herbert. I don't know who that guy is, obviously, but I can't imagine that there's not OCs out there quarterback coaches, whatever, wanting their first OC job, just chomping at the bit to get to Justin Herbert.
I heard Matt Canada was looking for a job.
He's not.
I know.
He's not.
It's so sad.
He's back. He's back to the rejoice of 75% of the AFC North. Matt Canada is going to be the offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers next year. So,
but we got a lot of positive things going, but that's not one of them.
I think just to kind of put a bow on that wildcard game, Trevor Lawrence, awful first half. Mm-hmm. What a resilient way to respond, though. I mean, you got a tip of the cap to that. I mean, obviously they wouldn't have had to climb out of that hole if he didn't dig them into it. But I mean, they won.
That game was primetime game, right? And there's probably a lot of people who haven't watched a lot of Jaguars football this year. And if you haven't, you basically got the encapsulation of Trevor Lawrence as a quarterback jam-packed into one game. You had the first half and the second half. Last year, he tied for the league lead in interceptions, obviously as a rookie. Like, he is a guy who is that gunslinger mode where he's going to take some risks and there's going to come some turnovers with that. But more often than not, he's going to deliver big time throws and complete those, 20, 30 yard plays in the air, which super exciting to watch. He's also going to have games where he throws 4 picks and it's kind of wild. And we were talking about Justin Herbert too. Justin Herbert is also a gunslinger, but he's a little bit more on the conservative side, as opposed to Trevor Lawrence, who will let those things fly. But both of these guys, this is their first playoff game as pro quarterbacks. And I think you saw that on both sides in their own right and own ways. There were a lot of times when the Chargers were in the red zone and they couldn't convert, settling for 3 as opposed to getting 7. If they convert even just one of those, they win that game. And I believe it happened 4 different times where they didn't get 6, entering the red zone. It was a rough day at the office for them. Corey, I know you've harped on the Chargers all year. I still love Herbert as a player. Todd, You're right. You obviously get rid of the coach and not the quarterback. He's I'm not pressing the panic button in LA on Herbert. It's, do I have the right people around this guy? And am I wasting some rookie contract worth.
So part of that is that he is going to have his third offensive coordinator in 4 seasons. I think that there is something to be said about that. Obviously, I'm not comparing these two quarterbacks in terms of raw talent, but you look at the situation that, you guys went through there in Cleveland,
Baker,
Aaron, with Baker, and Baker didn't have consistency in his first 5 seasons as a Brown. He had 4 head coaches, 5 if you count an interim, right? And that's just not an environment conducive for success. So that does concern me. However, Justin Herbert, I think, has enough tools in the box to be okay with that. There's not so much like I think what I'm hearing from Todd is it's more a scheme issue than it is an ability to execute issue. The scheme that Lombardi presented, or that Brandon Staley ran through Lombardi, was not one that allowed an offense to produce points, and that's kind of what they ran into there.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it with Matt Stafford and Joe Lombardi too, right? In Detroit, you draft a guy number 1 overall, and they run a West Coast offense with a guy that had at that point in time a top 5 arm in the game. And of course, you go 9-7 or 7-9, whatever they were going year over year, and everybody's blaming Matt Stafford for the offensive woes. But would you have a guy like Calvin Johnson, and you're only targeting him? He averaged. I looked into this after Joe Lombardi got fired. Calvin Johnson got targeted like 8. He had averaged like 8.6 targets a game, 9 targets a game, let's call it. And this guy is a Hall of Famer. And Matt Stafford was only throwing him the ball 9 times a game. Like that's a serious problem. If you look at a guy like a Devontae Adams or a Tyreek Hill, they're getting targeted, just Stephon Diggs, 12 to 15 times a game. And yet Joe Lombardi was running an offense where you have a guy that is at that point in time, Calvin Johnson's a top 3 athlete in the NFL, and you're not even using him properly. And I think you're seeing it again through kind of with Chargers, where you have a guy, Mike Williams has had some injuries, but even looking down that depth chart with the wide receivers, and you have guys like Jordan Palmer and Carter. Like Carter's one of the faster guys in the league, and they're not stretching the field with him. Like I don't know. It just the scheme thing is the thing that bothers me about Stafford, because I think Aaron said at the beginning of the year, I don't think it's far off, that Justin Herbert has the ability to be in the S tier of quarterbacks within the NFL, but you said it too, without the consistency of having the chemistry of calling the plays and understanding the playbook, it gets really fucking hard in the NFL to be able to put points on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously some regrouping for the Chargers this offseason, and figuring out what the heck they're going to do. I'm not giving up on Justin Herbert just yet. I think he's got a lot of talent. He will be a solid quarterback in the NFL, but I think you guys brought up some good points. They've got some things to work on for sure. What about Skylar Thompson taking on the Bills, keeping it close?
I think I'll get a little bit into that when we talk. We're about to go into the Bengals Bills matchup. Okay. If that's cool with you guys, I kind of want to. What do you? I think a natural course of progression. Recap the games, go into the next game that they're going to be matching up against.
Okay.
Kind of staying on the Trevor Lawrence theme here. They got a hell of a matchup coming up their way. They're running into a fucking buzzsaw, and I don't know what it is about Arrowhead, but they make it out to be hell's doorsteps. Like no one has ever won a football game. Did you hear them asking of Trevor Lawrence about this today? Yes. Them asking him about the noise level again with the noise level. Like these guys, Trevor Lawrence has been in big games since he was like 16 years old. Like he has been played
in 2 national championships.
Yeah. He's been in big games. He's played.
What was it? Still hasn't lost on a Saturday since high school, college, or
and when are they playing?
Yep.
Saturday at 4:30, baby.
Yeah, I think that streak ends this week.
Let's talk about it, Aaron. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we're talking about the Jaguars, who part of the reason I took the Chargers last week was the Jaguars were a little over celebratory for my liking of a team that went 9-8 to win the division. It's awesome for them to get into the playoffs, and it was sweet. They're like hugging the owner on the sideline. All I'm saying is those are the teams I think aren't really going to make a lot of noise in the playoffs because they're already celebrating just getting into it, right? So they've already reached what they consider their peak is how I view that. And that's not necessarily always the case, but it's part of the reason I kind of took. Yeah. What's that?
Let's say, look at the Bengals last year. They're smoking cigars when they won the division.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's difference in everything. And I'm not saying every single case, but it was watching that game against the Titans afterwards. It was just something I kind of noticed watching the game. But for the Jaguars, I mean, listen, Trevor Lawrence is, which one are we going to get? Are we going to get first half or second half Trevor? Or are we going to get a combination of the two? Because you're going to have to be second half Trevor if you want to go up against Pat Mahomes and Arrowhead. I obviously have the Chiefs in this game. I do have my lock, though, as well in this game, and it's going to be on the Jags side. So I'm taking the Marvin Jones Jr. Over in this one, 22.5 receiving yards. And the reason I'm doing that is he is the veteran in the receiving corps. There's constantly games where you're going to look down at the box score and you're going to see 40 yards, 50 yards, 4 receptions, things like that.
27.5 is the line. Sorry.
27.5, excuse me. You're right, because I did bet that earlier. So 27.5 in the over. If the Jaguars are going to compete in this game, they're going to have to do it by throwing the football around against the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to be able to put up points in bunches. We see them do it all the time. The reason I'm also going with this one is you want to stay as far away as possible from running back props in this game because the receiving isn't going to go anywhere. Whether they're winning or whether they're not winning, the passing game is going to be a part of the game. If they get down early, I know they're going to be passing all game. The other line I actually would be very, very interested to take. I just haven't seen it, and it's only Wednesday. I'm probably going to hammer the over on Trevor Lawrence pass attempts in this game. I think they're going to be playing from behind early. The other one I hammered, even though it's minus 140, is the Chiefs over 6.5 points in the first quarter.
Interesting. So that is, we got Marvin Jones over 27.5 for Aaron's lock of the week. Love it. Love it.
Which is 2-0, by the way. Two third quarter clinchers. I told you we like those ones where we just get to chill for the remainder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think you got that the other one in the first half, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got one in the first half, one in the third quarter. We got the Daniel Jones over in passing yards last week. We'll talk. We'll get into that. But
I'm obviously taking the Chiefs here.
All right.
Corey, who do you have this week?
I got a game to spare, and I'm going to do it, man. I'm taking the undefeated guy on Saturdays. They are going to shock the world, and the Jaguars are going to come out and play a really close game and win. They are not going to beat them by a lot, but they are going to inch by. There's something about the bye week. There's just something about the bye week that can sometimes trip these teams up. We saw it happen to both 1 seeds last year, where the Packers got beat in the divisional round by the Niners at home in primetime, and obviously the Titans got beat at home against the Bengals. Obviously, they lost to 2 teams that were playing, pretty good football at that time, but we thought the Packers were marching all the way to the Super Bowl last year.
Sure.
We thought that was a sure thing. Chiefs are one of the odds-on favorites right now to do so. There's just some similarities there. The Chiefs, I'm not impressed by the way that they've played football over the last month and a half either. I think that there's something to be said there. I like the momentum that that the Jaguars have right now. I like that momentum, the way that they're feeling confident in themselves. If they get down early to the Chiefs, which they probably will, Trevor Lawrence is going to look at all those guys in the eyes and say, look, we've been here before. We can do this. I've seen us do it last week. We can come back from this. We can beat this team. And I think that the offense is in a different place than when they played last time. I think Trevor Lawrence came out and said, I feel like the offense let the defense down. I think the Jaguars defense did a pretty decent job against this Chiefs team last time they came together. Obviously, different teams, different scenario. It's time changes the way that teams are handling themselves. But I got a game to spare. I'm going to go with the fan side here. Obviously, if the Jags win and the Bengals win, Bengals host the AFC Championship game, which would be great for me. So I'm rooting for that, and I'm gonna go with my heart here instead of my head. I'm gonna pick the Jags.
All right, Todd.
Man, I love you taking Jacksonville, and I appreciate the Stones, but I just can't do it.
I get it.
I think that you're going to watch a team that puts up so many points in the first half, and now I want to say, obviously, Jacksonville came back from 27 down, so this is going to sound silly saying this, but I don't think Kansas City's defense allows that quick of a that quantity of a turnaround. If they go up, I'm guessing Kansas City goes up by 17 in the first half. That's where that kind of number hits me right now. And then being able to put points on the board, I could see them putting together back-to-back touchdown drives and then a field goal going into halftime. I just don't. And look, I haven't watched a ton of Jags games, but I just don't know who their answer is to Travis Kelce, right? There isn't anybody on that Jags defense and the backside of that defense, right? That's like your true lockdown. I think Devin Lloyd kind of showed the bits of that at the beginning of the year. I mean, he was early on in the season, he was in the conversation of defensive rookie of the year. And now people are talking about him being one of the biggest flops of the rookies that started in the NFL. So that's who Kelce probably matches up against a lot in this game, and Travis Kelce's gonna Travis Kelce. I don't know. I foresee him having a big game and that putting Kansas City in the win column.
Yeah, I mean, I second what you're saying, and I don't see the Jags making a comeback on this team. The Chargers and the Chiefs are so far separated when it comes to talent, and the Chiefs are not going to give up a 27-0 lead. The Jags will get back in the game probably if it gets to that point. They're gonna put some points on the board, but Pat Mahomes is not giving up a 27-point lead. I don't see any world, and if that scenario is the same to where that happens. So
I get it.
I'm taking the Chiefs this week. I would love to see the Jags win.
Here's what's going to happen. You're going to get a text from me about midway through the third quarter. No, I'm just kidding.
So I think it's interesting, though, right? Before. So Aaron brought up a point about the Jacksonville's post-game celebration after winning the AFC South, and obviously the parallel is the Bengals smoking cigars after winning the AFC North last year. You're looking at two teams that are kind of following a similar path, right? You go out and get your quarterback with the first overall pick. You have your down year. Obviously the circumstances are different. Trevor Lawrence's was really growing pains. Joe Burrow's was injuries. But then you turn around and then you win your division in year two. And you should be, if that locker room's not hyped for, going from the worst to the best in their division, then the chemistry's bad. Then it's a team problem. So I'm interested to see what Jacksonville does in the AFC South over the next 3 to 5 years, because, I think we're going to, obviously the Colts are kind of going to have to turn things upside down and kind of rebuild. The Texans are going to,
You're in the midst of it.
Yeah. And then the Titans are kind of in a similar situation where you remove most of your coaching staff, you leave Mike Vrabel, you have a new GM, or no, they haven't hired a new GM yet, have they?
The Titans, no, I don't believe they have.
No, it's just the Cardinals that have hired. They hired a former front office person from the Titans. Yeah,
an assistant GM is now the Cardinals GM. Yeah, from the Titans. Yes.
So the AFC South is kind of in the hands of Jacksonville now. So even if you lose this game against Kansas City, you're taking the foundation, which was 2-14, if I'm not mistaken, and flipped it to 9-8 and winning a playoff game in 365 days. That's a big fucking deal if you're Jacksonville. And I think that, in the AFC, you have to take notice of that, regardless of what division you're in, that this team came in and kind of flipped the script.
I 100% agree. I think the AFC South is kind of a division that goes through these very drastic flips, right? Yep. Where it was the Titans for 3 or 4 years. And then this year we're like the Colts for sure are going to take over. I think we all picked the Colts as winning that division. And then here come the Jags. Only Aaron predicted that one. And it's just out of nowhere. And now it looks like the landscape is shaping up for them to run it for about 3 or 4 years, depending on who Houston is able to land down there at quarterback. But just another thing we're talking about the history of Jacksonville here. If there's one franchise that is really good at knocking off the top dog in the playoffs, it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. They've done it twice in the last 10 years, I think. Thinking about obviously more than 10 years ago, but in the history of their franchise, I forget how old I am sometimes.
That was 2004, I believe, when one of those years when they marked.
And before that,
Brunell,
it was
right?
Before that, I think was the 90s.
Brunell was in the 90s. They
beat
constantly no, they lost. They made it to the AFC Championship game twice, and they lost.
They beat Elway in the divisional round one year. I believe
1 year they did, right?
Yeah.
The 2 years that they made it to and then the Titans too are always there against them.
They beat the Steelers, I think, in the divisional round, and then lost.
They beat the Steelers with was it Byron? And then they beat him again with Bortles. Yeah, I mean, listen,
just frisky, man.
Yeah, for sure. I don't disagree with you, but if Trevor Lawrence plays that same game that he played, and again, that's probably statistically impossible. Like we were just saying, the Chargers couldn't get into the end zone. That game would have been 40-7 if it was the Chiefs. Like they would have had no problem stomping on their throat. Yeah. So if you have to play a blemish-free game, not blemish-free, but you know what I mean. You can't make that same amount of the same type of mistakes and expect to get the same outcome in this game. So I'd like to see how the Jags will respond to that. Corey, I don't think it's a terrible pick. Obviously,
it is. It's a horrible pick.
What I'm saying is these are playoff teams at this point, right? Like sure. I've seen teams in the regular season, of course, where you're like, there's no way this is, lock this one in, whoever, and they lose. It happens. This NFL teams can lose against NFL teams, but playoff NFL games can go drastically different directions. The Chiefs, the one thing we didn't talk about here is the dreaded, I don't have any numbers on it, but it's just a gut feeling thing of that team coming off the bye, into the playoffs. Like, the Jags are up, they're playing, they got hit in the mouth last week. You can't simulate that. So how are the Chiefs going to come out and how are they going to respond? I
think a path to victory is keeping Patrick Mahomes on the bench as long as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Good paced out drives.
Yeah, right? You're breaking the huddle at 11 seconds, something like that.
Yeah, you got to if you're going to put together points on the board, it's got to take 7 or 8 minutes to get those points on the board.
Yep. And you got to get
a good
points.
point. Yeah, that's a good.
Can't be punting.
Yeah, that's a good point. That should be everybody's strategy against Kansas City. Is keep Patrick Mahomes off the field. It feels very simple to put it that way, but there's a recipe to that. That makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the three of us have the Chiefs, and Corey is taking the Jags.
Wild card, bitches.
And what would most certainly be the largest upset that we will have seen in playoffs in quite some time. All right. Next game. This is where my lock of the week is. We've got the Giants headed to Philly to take on the Eagles.
Philly.
All right. I will go with my pick, my lock of the week. I'll leave this one off, boys.
Spicy.
So I'm taking the Eagles. Obviously, Jalen Hurts is off the injury report for the first time in 2 months. So probably going to have a little rust there. My lock of the week, Daniel Jones and Jalen Hurts over 50 rushing yards apiece. Lock it in.
Oh yeah, dude.
Wow.
Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that bet? That's a great line. What are the odds on that?
Oh, I will pull it up for you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail you there, but
you're good.
I'm drooling over that.
I went to the
lock of the week.
I went to the game itself, and then I did
the game specials,
and then I did a same game parlay with the alternate rushing yards.
Okay. So it's alternate spread. Okay. Yeah.
Let's pull it up here and see what the actual. I got a little frisky with my bets this week.
Well, you should, man. You're hot.
Yeah, Bobby's on a fucking heater, guys.
Bobby Heaters really over here.
I really had I'll get to this I'll get to what I was gonna tell you guys in a second, but I'm trying to find this line and where the heck it's at. Let me pull the game up. Anyways, I missed 3 parlays last week by one leg, and I would have won over $300.
And dude, that is why
they were all rushing yards.
That is why I've adopted the strategy as of late. And I know I've talked about this in our group chat, but sharing it for the listeners here in case you're getting into sports gambling. Everybody loves the parlays. The parlays are sexy. I get it. They're fucking awesome when you hit. But there's a reason why the payouts are so big. It's because they are hard to hit. So one of the things that I have done to kind of combat that, because I think you guys in Ohio specifically are getting a lot of these alternate lines and parlays because the mobile gambling is new. They want to get you involved and get you an account balance and things like that. So just, obviously be wary of that. But
no, dude, we're just dope at this.
Yeah, you guys are just really, really good.
It's just gearing up for March Madness to just wreck the state of Ohio.
So I got the odds. The odds on that line, it is plus 324.
Okay.
Oh, really? Because I'm looking at Daniel 50 plus for both.
Yep.
I'm showing 287, but
I've got plus 324. I placed that bet earlier this evening before the podcast. I also kind of doubled down on that in a Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones anytime touchdown. So I took their yards and the touchdowns, and that was plus 22.39. So,
Jesus Christ, that would be. We'll all be rooting for that. But so the wrap up, what I do is I'll build a parlay on my app, and then I'll bet the parlay at a substantially lower amount and then bet each leg individually as a straight bet with a higher amount. More often than not, you're going to hit most of the legs of your parlay if you're, doing it right. If you've been betting parlays and you're finding that like, oh man, I'm hitting all but one. You're making good bets overall. So like, don't get down on yourself. You're making good bets. Bet those legs individually. You'll come out on top, and then the parlay will be just the cherry on top. If it hits, it'll be just double prizes. It'll be cool. So that's just kind of the strategy I've been doing this year. It's been working, been slowly growing the balance, right? And it's a marathon, not a sprint for sure. So it's been fun though. But I like that. That is Bobby's lock
it in
of the week.
But yeah, so last week on the Giants Vikings, the only leg I missed on a 7-leg parlay was Saquon Barkley plus 60 yards. He had 53 going into the fourth quarter, which should have hit, and it didn't. And then another bad one that I missed was in the Cowboys-Bucks game. I hit, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4. I had 5 of 6 legs, and the only one that I missed was Zeke plus 40 rushing yards. So
yeah. That's a tough one. And one that I missed in this one, and it kind of takes me into what I'm doing this week. It's not my lock of the week, but something that I'm going to experiment with. I'll let you guys know how it works out, but something I'm definitely going to be doing next year. Whenever interceptions are offered,
take them.
It's typically over or under 0.5 interceptions. So they're either going to throw an interception or they're not. Last week, I bet on both Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott to throw an interception. They didn't. Odds are this week,
they do.
Odds are better that this week they will throw an interception because over time, fucking quarterbacks throw interceptions. So I'm going to double down on Daniel Jones and Dak Prescott throwing an interception this week. If it's offered in your sports book, that I'm making that play. Next season, I plan on creating a ledger because guess what, guys? Quarterbacks throw interceptions all year, unless you're fucking Jared Goff and have a miracle where you only throw 7 in a season. I'm going to create a ledger and notate each time I'm taking a quarterback over or under half an interception, and I'll be doubling down each time that specific quarterback is offered and the bet has not hit. So it's just something I'm going to be experimenting with, kind of a roulette style of gambling, a blackjack style of gambling, and we'll see how it plays out.
I think Daniel Jones only has like 5 interceptions this year, though, right? He's not just been turning it over at a crazy rate. Yeah,
no, 5. But I if you look at takeaways for the season as well, the Eagles are one of the best in the league at forcing turnovers. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. So I have the Eagles. Aaron, who you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the 1 seeds here. Obviously, we can see anything happen, on a Saturday or Sunday and playoff weekend. The Eagles really impressed me this regular season. I think they were, for 90% of the season, the far and away best team in the league. And I think we forget that very quickly because Jalen Hurts had been out for a little bit. And, it's just not the same team with Gardner Minshew under center. No shit, right? So we'll see how the Eagles, same thing with the Chiefs. I'm always scared of the team because now that it's only the 1 seed gets the bye, you are literally the only team coming in not playing last week. And it's just always an interesting dynamic to the game of if the Giants come out quick and score, get the ball, score within, the first 4 or 5 minutes of the game, now the Eagles are on their heels a little bit. How do they respond? Getting punched in the mouth. I'm going to take the Eagles in this game. I think they're the better team. I owe the Giants an apology from how I thought they would be at the beginning of the year. I owe Daniel Jones an apology for how he has played into this playoffs and really has kind of flipped the script, in my opinion, on it. I would love to see it again in this game, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the Giants win this game because I think the Eagles are the better team, but I will be fully on the Daniel Jones as a legitimate NFL starting quarterback if I can see it in this game, even in a loss.
Yeah. No, I like it. Todd.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles here. I think it's Brian Dable, I think we talked about last week, should certainly a candidate for coach of the year. Obviously, the rookie head coach of the year, if anything, if we're going to give him some sort of accolade.
Best goatee.
Definitely an S-tier goatee as well. You are correct about that. I think the big thing looking at this game, and Bobby kind of made this point, is Jalen Hurts hasn't played in 5 weeks, right? 5 weeks, 6 weeks, somewhere in that ballpark. Certainly have a little bit of dust on the shoulder pads there, not getting out there and making plays and taking hits. So I think this game is very slow. That's kind of that's my projection here, is that I think the Eagles take it, but I think if you're looking for a game to kind of tune out through after the first half, this isn't the one, because I think it gets much more exciting in the second half here, and the ball starts hitting the air, and I think you're gonna see AJ Brown go plus 110 yards this week. I think this is a big game for AJ Brown. It's obviously his time in Tennessee was cut short with playoff games, right? And now he gets the opportunity with the right offense and the right quarterback and the right play calling to show what his impact is to a team. So I'm excited to see the Eagles kind of work through the playoffs here and work into the NFC Championship.
Sure. Corey.
Yeah, a couple of things there that I really like that Todd said, and the rust factor. And I'm looking back through the matchups. The Eagles and Giants just played a couple of weeks ago in week 18. Now, obviously, no Hurts, but the Giants didn't play their starters, and they lost by 6. I think it's 22-16 was the final score, if something in that ballpark. So the Giant scrubs were hanging around with the Eagles scrubs, and that means a little bit of something. It doesn't mean a lot, but it means a little bit of something, because depth is extremely important through the playoffs. So just keep that little nugget in there. What, you got something there?
Well, I mean, Jalen played week 18.
Oh, did he? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's why I was confused. Yeah.
He did. That's right.
Okay. So, I mean,
because they needed to win that to retain the 1 seed.
You're correct.
The Giants couldn't have moved up or down, so they didn't really have an incentive.
So
even though they were the lower seed team, they just couldn't move.
Right. And I think that kind of might even bolster a little bit more towards this point, is that this is absolutely going to be a game. Like, this is a divisional rival. They've seen each other twice already. There's not a lot of secrets between the two. It's why you saw some of the similar games like Miami, Buffalo, and Cincinnati Ravens, that these guys know each other, and they've seen a lot of the schematics that they're going to be putting out there. So just keep an eye on it. Exactly like what Todd said. The thing here is that I think the rest is really serving the Eagles well. Whereas the Chiefs didn't have a lot to really come off of, like in terms of injuries. They weren't really an injury-laden roster. The Eagles were. They had Lane Johnson. He was out. So now they're coming back full steam, full of health, ready to go.
Robert Quinn's back this week too, if I'm not mistaken.
Huge addition. Absolutely huge addition for this Eagles team. So I think the key here is going to be that the Eagles are going to do what they have done all year, and they're going to take the ball away. I think they're going to make Daniel Jones have to beat them with his arm. If you shut down running lanes on Daniel Jones, keep him in the pocket, don't let him roll out, improvise, things like that. It makes it a lot harder for the lack of wide receiver core on the Giants to really make an impact here. Obviously, Saquon's going to be a huge part of their offense, but I'm taking the Eagles.
All right, very good. I didn't expect there to be any disparity, but there might be in this next game. I mean, Giants-Eagles are going to be a chippy game. Divisional games always are. Just as we saw Bengals Ravens last week, that game got pretty chippy. But now we get the game that we've been wanting to see for a couple weeks. We got the Bengals taking on the Bills. They're obviously playing in Buffalo. There's obviously controversy surrounding it, but this is going to be, I think, the game of the weekend. So, we've got the two of the youngest guys coming in. It kind of reminds me of like the Brady Manning matchup. I'm kind of getting those kind of vibes between Burrow and Allen, just as far as like the competitive nature and how we're gonna see it over the next decade or decade and a half. Bengals guys, do you guys want to lead this off or do you want to go second?
Your call, baby.
Aaron?
Sure. I mean, I'll give my 2 cents here. I've actually been going kind of back and forth in this matchup, and Bobby, you hit it on the head. We have been waiting for this matchup. I'm excited to see it. With frankly more on the line, obviously, even though the last one still had a lot on the line too. And obviously, we all know the situation that happened on Monday Night Football with Hamlin, and we're all happy to see that he's doing better. But we are going to get this matchup now. The Bengals, I think, to me, I'm a little bit more scared of right now than the Bills. I'm more scared of Burrow than I am Allen, and I'll tell you why. It's because I don't think Burrow has the same tendency to turn the ball over in critical situations, which basically every situation is critical in the playoffs. We saw in the last game with the Bengals and the Ravens, when you think, hey, I'm pretty sure the Ravens are going to score right here, and then they don't. So we can see shit flip just like that, just like we saw this past weekend. And obviously the Bills are at home. I think if you watch the beginning of that game that we had a couple weeks ago, the Bengals obviously came and struck quick. Now, the thing I'm very concerned about, and I'm interested to throw it to Corey and Todd because they'll be able to speak more in depth about this than I will. The look that the Bengals had after the last offensive line injury in that game was scary to me for the Bengals. They were going 3 and out in a situation where not only would not scoring here be beneficial, just killing some clock. So a 3 and out is literally all you can't do. The way that the Ravens were able to get to Burrow so quickly after was it the left tackle guys
Jonah Williams, left tackle.
That offense looked very, very different. Now you have a week to prepare for that, though. You do have more guys on that roster who I know can step up, but the Bengals by and large had a very healthy offensive line throughout the year. 4 different starters now there. 3 different starters there now. How is that going to look? I'm still going to take the Bengals here, though, because again, I'm going to take the quarterback that I'm more afraid of here. I'm kind of surprised I'm doing it, but the Bills have just constantly played to the level of their opponent, and you can't do that to a team that at coin flip at best is a better opponent.
Yeah. This is a tough game. I saw a lot of the concerns that I saw is what Aaron mentioned on the offensive line. Jackson Carman scares the shit out of me if I'm a Bengals fan. With him at left tackle, just an absolute liability out there. Just not impressive in any way, shape, or form. Todd, you and I both dislocated kneecaps. We know how uncomfortable that is. If he didn't tear anything, that's great. But he's still going to be out for a couple weeks. It's just the nature of the beast. And unless by some miracle he can get back on the field, I don't see Jonah Williams coming back next week if the Bengals do advance. That being said, the Bills did not impress me against the Dolphins. It was interesting to see Allen at some points in his decision making when the Dolphins defense isn't half as good as the Bengals defense. And I think the Bengals defense has a very, very good opportunity to make Josh Allen very uncomfortable and force him into some bad decisions. The Bengals are the underdog in this game, at least by Vegas's standards. But I think the Bengals are going to take this one. I've been on the fence all day thinking about it, but I'm going to take the Bengals here. I think they take it in Buffalo. I think they've got some unfinished business from that Monday night game that was abruptly ended. One thing I do want to say, Russell Gage did go out with a back injury, which was pretty scary in that Tampa game. So thoughts and prayers out to him in his recovery process as well. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Corey.
Yeah.
Can we just do the tandem again? Are you okay with that, Corey?
Yeah, sure. We can tag team this, big dog. Little ace kiss block up to the linebacker. I dig it. Shout out to Craig dropping into the chat here. Says, cheers for a great game. Winner goes to the Super Bowl. Craig is a Bills fan dropping in. I appreciate you. I think both fan bases are going to be rooting.
Craig is a Bills fan living on the West Coast. How about that?
That's pretty
I'm
cool.
not necessarily rooting for the Bengals here, guys.
No, I get it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I understand it. Yeah.
Go Bills. I agree with you, Craig. Lake Erie Bros. I will take that all day.
I think both fan bases are in a position to where like we're not really buddies right now. We want to beat each other. After this game, after this, the salt has washed out of our wounds, we will likely root for the other to win it all because neither fan base has seen that. And I think that we're kind of, cut from the same cloth. Browns fans, Bills fans, Bengals fans, Lions fans. You could probably throw Vikings fans in that same sentence, maybe even Titans, Jaguars. We've all been through the same kind of pain, some a little bit longer than others. But for this matchup, just kind of touching base on what the Bengals saw last week, what the Bills saw last week, and then I'll kind of get into the picks here. Absolutely major concern with the offensive line. Jonah Williams' injury, will it keep him out for a couple of weeks? I don't necessarily think that that's the case. He dislocated his other kneecap against the Ravens in week 6, finished the game, and then played the next week. So it's just how bad was this one? I haven't seen any reports on the scans. I don't think he's playing this week. I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
He's been on crutches every day. He was on crutches today.
So that could be ligament tear, or that could be let's make sure we don't utilize this. Let's let it rest. Who knows what that really looks like until, and I'm sure the Bengals are going to keep their cards held close to their chest. Thing to note, the Bengals chose Jackson Carman. They had options. They didn't call up Isaiah Prince from the practice squad. Obviously, Isaiah Prince playing right tackle in that Super Bowl game. They didn't call up, or they didn't put in Dante Smith in there at left tackle. They put in Jackson Carman. Why? I'm not sure why, but I'm clinging on to something to say that's a good sign for Jackson Carman's development, that he was the one that they thrust into that position. Also, he played left tackle at Clemson for Trevor Lawrence. He was Trevor Lawrence's left tackle. So the hometown kid, obviously Fairfield High School, rooting for him. Probably not banking on it, but I'm rooting for him. I hope he succeeds. What the Bengals saw last week from that Ravens defense, in my opinion, other than the Bengals, the best defense in the AFC has been eliminated from the playoffs, and that is the Baltimore Ravens. What that defensive front does, very similar to what Tennessee did against the Bengals last year. A lot of stunts, a lot of disguises. McDonald, I think, is their defensive coordinator, does a lot of stuff to make things hard to interpret off the line, and that's one of Joe Burrow's best skills, is identifying the defense and then striking. Todd, I want to get you involved here. I feel better about what the Bengals are going to face from a defensive line standpoint going into this matchup. I don't think that the Bills have anywhere near the same amount of pressure or ability to get to the quarterback that the Ravens did.
No, and if you watch that game against Miami, and if you watched them previously, I'm thinking back to the Lions game. It's kind of a bulldog mentality in terms of how they provide pressure. It's kind of in your face, straight 4 to 5 people rushing the quarterback. Obviously, a lot of people have been, and Bobby heard me say this multiple times on Sunday too, have been touting Matt Milano as the guy that's kind of surged this year, right? Like his career is kind of expedited. But I
I don't see him necessarily as a big threat to the Bengals as much as he was to the Dolphins, right? Because there's an answer to Matt Milano in the backfield, and Joe Mixon and P. Ryan both are above average running. Average to above average. If
I like P. Ryan a lot better.
Yeah,
a lot better.
So at protecting the quarterback, so I think there's an answer there. If you're feeling a lot of pressure, if Buffalo comes out and does what they did against the Dolphins and rushes 5 to 6 guys, then you have the option of even putting Wilcox in the backfield with Joe Burrow to provide that extra pressure. Or if they see something with Carmen that they don't like, there are things in place there that Cincinnati can do to kind of eliminate that bull rush that Buffalo provides. And I think Corey makes a good point too. And you look at what Baltimore does on defense, specifically with 5 guys, because I think we watched a lot in that game too, that they really never brought more than 5 guys in pressure. But with the amount of stunts that they run and a lot of last second line shifting, it's hard for the best offensive lines in the NFL to protect a quarterback when you're moving around like that right before the ball snapped. Buffalo doesn't run that way. Another thing about Buffalo that I'm less concerned with than I was with Baltimore is their secondary. Right? I think this is a secondary that's doesn't quite have the chemistry.
They get beat more.
Yeah, so I think that outside of Pointer, I think you're talking about, obviously Kyrie Elam had a couple of interceptions against Skylar Thompson. Right place, right time for both of those balls, and made a great play on both of those. But Joe Burrow's not going to necessarily make those mistakes, right? Both of Elam's interceptions, and I'm not discrediting what he's able to do, but it was mistake passes that Elam just recognized immediately off the ball. Right, you see where he's kind of the first one I'm thinking of specifically, where he's probably 2 to 3 steps. I believe it was Jalen Waddle. He was behind, and all he had to do was just cut in front of him. He's right on the ball, plays over. Joe Burrow's not going to make that eye contact mistake. Right, that's an eye contact mistake for a quarterback where they're projecting their target before they even snap the ball. Skylar Thompson did that a lot in that game. I watched him a lot. Turning his head kind of to the right a little bit when he was making those deep balls to Waddle. I don't know if you guys noticed that too. That first deep ball he threw to Waddle that he dropped, Skylar Thompson was already right foot back looking to the right before they even snapped. Joe Burrow's not going to make that mistake. That's the big thing here. I think that's the variance when you're looking at Buffalo's defenses. They're not going to get as many easy opportunities to collapse on a play. Cincinnati's going to focus on getting the ball out quick, as they have and previous weeks. This offense is built around 3 guys that can get open quickly and develop and make a play in 2 seconds. And I'm interested to see Buffalo's strategy against Jamar Chase, because I don't know if they have anybody one-on-one that can stop with him and go. Right, and Jamar Chase makes most of his money in the open field on his ability to just turn it off and turn it back on.
How many teams do have that guy?
Yeah, and that's another I think the Bills have a guy like that too, obviously, in Diggs.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the biggest thing for the Bengals defense. Obviously, the Bengals defense is a solid unit. They've allowed more than 24 points throughout the entire season. They've allowed only more than 24 or more points 3 times in the entire season. They are 1-2 in that stretch. That's pretty solid, guys. That's a hell of a defense. I think over the last 4 or 5 matchups they haven't given up more than 20 in the last 4 or 5 games. So they're playing well. Obviously, in the playoffs, I don't know if this is just their calling card, but just making big plays in the playoffs, if that's just what this defense does now, because we've seen it so many times, whether it's the Jermaine Pratt interception of Derek Carr, or the Jesse Bates interception to start the game off against the Titans last year, or the obviously Von Bell's interception against the Chiefs in overtime to give the Bengals field position for the field goal. There's just a ton of defensive plays, and then obviously you have what's being dubbed as the fumble in the jungle, Sam Hubbard's 98-yard recovery touchdown. They just make plays, man. And I honestly, if they hold the Bills to 24 points, I don't think the Bills win the game. That's my biggest reason why I'm going with the Bengals, and why I'm going with my lock of the week this week. This line is ridiculous. I don't understand it. Now, typically when that happens,
You have a bad time.
I have a bad time. But I'm going with my lock of the week this week. I'm seeing this line at 5.5.
Yeah.
4.5 on some sports books, but 5.5 here on Caesars. I'm not sure what you guys are seeing. That is crazy to me. So I'm taking the Bengals at plus 5.5, and here's some stats to back this up. The Bengals are 12-5 against the spread this season. They are 7-2 against the spread on the road, and they are 2-0 against the spread as an underdog. The Bills are 8-9 against the spread this season. They are 4-5 at home against the spread, and 8-9 as favorites against the spread. So when I'm comparing those two, how does Vegas grade these teams? The Bills are inflated on their spreads get inflated by whether that's money that flows their way or whatever. Their spreads get inflated comparatively towards the Bengals, whereas 82% of the cash right now, 82% of the money that is being bet on this game is going on the Bengals to cover this spread. I think most of the bets as well, not just the money, but most of the bets as well. And 66% of the cash is going on the Bengals to win it outright. That's not a huge variance there, 66%, but that
no. But the crazy thing is the line started at 4.5 and moved to 5.5, even with the money going that way. So that's Vegas digging their heels in as well.
Yes, it's very interesting.
They'll stick with the side if they believe in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It does. Money won't always flow it if they think they're right. They'll hedge their bets oftentimes, but they won't do that. So the thing that'll be interesting from this, and not necessarily from the gambling perspective, but we were just talking about all these divisional matchups, right? Like I think the Bengals didn't show me enough last week either, even though I still like them more in this game. But we've given everybody the benefit of the doubt, and we were talking about the Eagles Giants game as well, where it's like, okay, I can see the path, right? The Seahawks still gave the Niners a run for their money to start that game, right? At least up until halftime.
And I think to
Bills played a divisional. I know it was Skyler. I know it was, but that's still a divisional opponent, and they played them tough all year. They beat them, and they almost beat them in the blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people being concerned over the Bills, I think it's being overblown a little bit, the concern. Obviously, I think everyone sitting here can live in a world where we wake up Monday and go, yeah, the Bills won that game, and here's why, and I can totally understand that outcome. But what is important, what is I'm most excited about for this game is this is the first playoff game that we're getting in 2023 of two teams that I legitimately think can win the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
I haven't gotten it from any. You don't get those in the first round typically, and oftentimes you're not getting that until you get to the conference championship game. Either one of these teams, I would not be surprised if they won the Super Bowl. I think the winner of this game has the rightful shot at it. Obviously, there's the NFL rules about home field, whether the Bills win, all that. We can hash that out if we get to it. But both of these teams, I think, have legitimate chances. But also there are warts coming into this game with the Bengals on the offensive line and the Bills, the turnovers and really allowing teams to hang with them all season.
Yeah, and I think just a comment, or I saw a little video put out today, and something Bobby was trying to stress to me early off in this whole schedule fiasco that I wasn't ready to hear it yet, but something that was really fun was it was Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow was on Colin Cowherd. He has a weekly spot on there actually, and he was talking to Colin Cowherd, and he was like, basically said like, I would have just liked to have been afforded the same opportunity that the Ravens had, in that we get a coin flip opportunity. I would have liked to have just been given that opportunity. And then it cuts to a clip from The Last Dance where it's Michael Jordan going, and that's all I needed to hear. And that's all I needed to hear was him to say that. And I took it personal. It was personal to me. And then it just goes into highlights of Joe Burrow. I think that is real. I think that they believe that. I think that they're seeing the talk that they are big underdogs. Joe literally said today, he's like, I never feel like I'm an underdog ever, which obviously you want to hear that from your quarterback. Like, you're going to make me hoo-day. Like that's happening when I hear that. But what else is he going to say? I understand that logic too. But I think that this team has a little bit of that moxie in them. I think they've got that kind of mentality. It's us against the world. They don't want us here. Too fucking bad. We're here. And this is not going to be a 5-point game. This is going to be a 2 to 4 point game at the most. 4 is a stretch. This is going to come down right to the wire. We're looking at two of the top 3 quarterbacks, in my opinion, in the entire league. It's Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen. Whichever way you want to cut it, I'm cool with it. Those are the top 3. I think Hurts is right on the outside of that. But by the way, it's going to be a hell of a matchup. But I gotta ride with the boys. I'm going with the Bengals.
Todd, you got the Bengals as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm obviously taking the Bengals too here. I don't think that there's not a circumstance to me, or there's not a situation where I don't feel like the Bengals can't win this game by at least 3. That's just what my gut tells me.
Yeah, I think that there's never going to be a point where I'm like, oh, well, we're done.
Yeah. And obviously the Bills are home, which of course is great. But, Corey, you kind of said it too at the beginning. Like, Chiefs went in and won last year in Arrowhead. It's not like this team hasn't,
Or they went into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs. Is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying. They did it. They did this. This unit did it last year.
Mhm.
In an equally intimidating environment.
Yeah, they've been in this situation where they've had. I mean, Nashville is not an easy place to play, guys. Like I went to the Titans game this year, Bengals Titans. It's not an environment that just allows people to just have a free conversation. They are rowdy down there as well. So it's I think and obviously Joe Burrow playing in the SEC, that pedigree. He's used to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm very excited about this one.
Oh, I think this is the best game of the week.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, last game of the divisional slate. We've got the Cowboys headed to San Francisco to take on.
I can't believe we all picked the same in that last one. Like, I can't believe we weren't split. Anyway,
yeah,
all right.
Same.
I am also shocked.
The Cowboys on the road versus the Niners. Aaron, lead us off.
Yeah, so we talked about Purdy at the top of the show here. Interestingly enough, I think we all took the Bucks. Did we not?
We did
last week.
Wow.
So listen, the Buccaneers didn't really have a great season. We already talked about Tom Brady, all that. We don't need to rehash it, but I think the reason we were all on the Bucks last week was because the Cowboys haven't really. They've been shoddy at best. They were kind of similar to the Vikings in the sense of their record doesn't match the eye test of the team that I've been witnessing. Dak Prescott has been average, above average,
pretty bad.
Average at best.
Yeah.
Yeah. But overall, that roster is really good, and I really, really like that defense and what Dan Quinn has brought over there. That being said, the 49ers have been playing elite defense all season. They haven't lost a game since they brought in Christian McCaffrey. Purdy hasn't lost a game. I believe they're 10 in a row or something at this point. They're absolutely rolling.
11.
And if it wasn't for having not faith in Purdy, and I feel like that's rightfully so to do because he's a rookie that everyone in the league, including the 49ers, passed on a shitload of times until he was the last draft pick in the draft. I'm just waiting for that other shoe to drop, for Cinderella's shoe to run out here on this story. And I haven't seen it yet. I'm not rooting for it, but I think same reason I just said in the last segment, it's going to be, Bills, Bengals, or of course the Chiefs are going to represent the AFC. I don't think any other team has a chance outside of those 3. In the NFC, I don't think there's an outside chance of anyone that's not the Eagles or the Niners to represent the NFC this year. I'm taking the Niners in this game. I want to see Purdy do it again, but I have no reason to doubt him. He showed me nothing to do so other than the fact that I just can't trust a rookie like that. And the Christian McCaffrey signing is, I don't know I've ever seen a running back make this much of a difference.
It's an absolutely massive impact. The thing that I didn't really like, though, is there were a couple of times in that first half, Purdy got away with some shit that I don't think he would get away with. if he played against the Cowboys. There were some questionable decisions that were made, some bad throws that were made, settled down obviously in the second half, and the Niners pulled away. If that happens again and this game is close, just watch out, because obviously we know that the Cowboys have the weapons, and I owe the Cowboys an apology because I didn't take them seriously going against the Buccaneers. Look at what they just did against the Commanders. They looked terrible the week prior going in this matchup. The Buccaneers were playing a little bit better. I just thought it made a lot of sense for the Cowboys to have a first-round exit again. Obviously, they proved us wrong, absolutely spanked that ass on Monday Night Football, sending Tom Brady packing to where we don't know. But I have a hard time picking against a team that has played this well for this long in the San Francisco 49ers. I don't think Purdy is that much of a liability anymore. I think he's proving to be more of an asset at this point, and the offense is flowing very well through him. And all that considered, best defense in the league. I'm taking the Niners.
I'd argue I don't know what you guys think about this. I'm curious. I think they have the best overall roster in the playoffs.
I think that I would go more towards the
quarterback
Eagles.
is the question. Yeah. Okay.
Because of that, I would say the Eagles. But yeah, I think that they're right there from top.
Yeah,
just the weapons on offense,
right?
And Ayuk, Debo, and CMC.
You didn't wait
George Kittle.
Like of course, obviously we do, because that's how football, works. But if you just went position by position grade, I think they would have the highest average overall.
I mean, they have a game wrecker on defense. Obviously, the defense as a unit plays great together. The only it's still he's won 6 games in a row, but yet it still remains a question, and he will be tested. He will be tested against this Cowboys defense, as Aaron said earlier, has shown a lot to be impressed with, and it'll just be interesting to see now as the spotlight continues to get brighter, and it's not going to dim out anytime before the season ends. How does this guy respond to it? So far, so good.
Sure. Todd.
Yeah, so I just want to make a point here about San Francisco, because I think everything's valid, right? I don't want to discredit anything anyone's saying, but San Francisco is 2 teams that have a plus point differential all season.
Really?
2. The Chiefs at plus 127 and the Seahawks at plus 6. That's it.
Wow. That's very interesting, actually.
They haven't been tested. Yeah. So a coworker of mine sent this tweet from this guy, Tim O'Risky, that tweeted it. I fact-checked it. He's right. There's 2 teams that they've played that have a positive point differential. One of those was the Chiefs, who they lost to by 3 touchdowns, and the other one is the Seahawks, who they beat 3 times.
So, quick question: Did they finish 3rd in the West last year or 2nd? Because I know 3 teams got in. Obviously, Rams, Cardinals, and Niners got into the playoffs last year. Did they finish 3rd in the division or 2nd? Because I'm just wondering how that schedule shook out, or did it just happen that the teams they're matched up against are just bad?
I'm looking at it now too, which is interesting. There's still I counted 6 playoff teams in there. So that's kind of or 6 games against playoff teams for the 49ers.
I don't know how that looks typically in comparison to.
So you're saying
I'm just saying it's wild to hear that all those teams, because that means I'm guessing some of those playoff teams, and one of 2 of those games of the Seahawks, came into the playoffs with negative differential as well, though.
Right. So that's finishing the regular season, right? So you're including the Chargers in that, who obviously they played
Chargers,
too.
Dolphins.
I know that's one of your teams. Yeah.
Bucks.
So here's so again, not a surprise there from Tay, right? Because I think that we watched things kind of stall out. But this is the first time Brock Purdy will actually be tested to make decisions against a really challenging defense, a real legitimate defense that Quinn defense, right? A defense that's going to call stunts, create variances at the line, force Purdy to make decisions at the line of scrimmage too, right? I think the thing that I watched when I watched Brock Purdy last Saturday is he doesn't have to call, at least against the Seahawks, he didn't really have to call any audibles or have to make any real-time changes, because they were just moving the ball over the field because the Seahawks defense is bad. So I'm really, really interested to see Brock Purdy's approach going into the game, because I think we've already talked about it. The assets that around him are not gonna. It doesn't inhibit him in any way, but he still has to get them the ball. They can't just hand the ball off to CMC 30 times. He's not built for that, So you're going to have to figure out a way. I think this is where we see Kyle Shanahan get into the section of the playbook and kind of get flashy. That's what I see from San Francisco against this Cowboys defense, is figuring out ways to get Debo involved differently than just, the occasional handoff or the jet sweep or whatever. I think you're going to see some flashy plays from San Francisco. I am picking the 49ers here. I don't trust Dak Prescott. I trust Dak Prescott less than I trust Kyle Shanahan making mistakes to cause them to lose the game as a head coach.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. So
yeah, no, definitely does.
I'm taking San Francisco here.
The spread on this game is only 3.5 points.
Makes sense.
I mean, it shocks me a little bit
because it's the Cowboys.
Break it down and think about it. Yeah, I mean they're gonna probably get a lot of money headed towards Dallas, but the one thing I noticed from the game last week with the Cowboys is that Prescott, it was almost like he was throwing scared. Like he just threw the most conservative passes. They were all between the hash marks. He didn't take any risks, which maybe that was a good thing and something he needed to, focus on to get his confidence back. I'm not sure what the strategy was there, but obviously it paid off. And in regards to Purdy, Todd's right. I mean, they're going to get tested this week, and it's going to be interesting to see how he does against, that athletic front of Dallas.
Yep.
Man, I almost want to take a flyer here, but I just don't. I mean, if this comes down to a field goal, I don't trust the kicker.
Yeah,
the dude missed.
Yeah, we not talked about that.
How have we not talked about
Holy shit, five in a row. 5 in a row.
It was 5 or 4?
It was
4.
I thought he was 4 or 5.
He had missed an extra point. He had missed an extra point going into that game.
Oh,
too.
shit.
So he missed 4 in the game, right? And then he missed 1 going into the game too. So that was 5 in a row. And he had missed 2 in the previous 16 games before that.
Wow. Maybe he's got the yips.
That's crazy. Dude, it's Steve Sachs syndrome.
That's just insane.
You just have it for a really long period of time. You could do everything. And then in a moment, you lose it. And I had read something too afterwards where he had been kicking extra points all week. That was the only thing that he focused on for most of the time that he was on the field. And he was missing them in practice too. So it's here, right? Obviously, he has the ability to do it.
Yeah.
It did not matter. You're right.
Yeah,
it pissed me off. It's like, how do you get away with this bullshit? Missing 4 extra points and it doesn't, you're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it wasn't good that afterwards Chuck Knobloch started trending on Twitter. So yeah, I think I agree with Todd. I think he's got a case of the yips here.
Yeah, Sachs. Yeah. So I think something too where they showed Dak Prescott a lot, visibly frustrated, and there's so many good memes of like,
yeah.
What was Brett Maher's reaction? 13 interceptions that Dak Prescott threw all year, and he led. If I'm not mistaken, or no, 15. I'm sorry, he led league in interceptions, and I think he missed a game or two.
Or he only played 12 games. Yeah, he missed 4 games,
and he threw 15 picks. Yeah. So those memes are great. It's like, what was Brett Maher's face when Dak in 12 snaps or whatever? It's beautiful thing. But
so that brings me to my next point.
I don't know. Hammering. It's worse.
I will be hammering the over on half an interception for Dak Prescott. Absolutely hammering it.
Yeah, and
sure.
That's the one thing I was also going to say for Purdy. I think he's going to be going up against an elite secondary, led by Trayvon Diggs, and I think Trayvon Diggs takes one to the house.
King.
Yeah, I think he takes one to the house. I think Purdy's going to make some mistakes this game, which is why this game is going to be close. The only thing that scares me about if I do take a flyer on the Cowboys is if it does come down to a field goal. we're 9 times out of 10 going to be losing that bet. But I need to try to get a game back here on everybody. So I'm going to take the Cowboys here on a flyer.
I gave you one earlier. I gave you the Chiefs Jags. I took the Jags.
Right. Yeah, but I got to get one back on Todd.
There you go. All right. I dig it.
I'm gonna take a flyer and take the Cowboys here. So
it's a good one to take.
Yeah, we'll see.
Give me that lead, baby.
Stranger shit has happened. So I'm gonna take. I mean, obviously, if I'm, my bets are with San Francisco, but I'm gonna take a flyer on the Cowboys for the picks here.
Love it.
All right. Well, that's gonna wrap us up. Chat. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. It's been a wonderful show. Obviously, a little bit shorter since we've got less games to talk about. But next week we'll have a lot to break down after this weekend. Comes to a close. So looking forward to it. And guys, appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate everybody coming out.
So before we wrap up, I just want to mention. I want to mention one thing that the Cowboys did add a kicker to their roster that they're going to roster for this game on Sunday night.
Ooh.
Who is it?
So there will be two kickers rostered for it's Tristan Viscano.
Big name on the kicker waiver wire. Yeah, big name.
He was kicking extra points. He was kicking extra points for the Patriots. He's basically an injury filler, but
sure.
They went out and signed him at 6:30 p.m. today.
So
6:30 today. They went out.
We'll leave you like that. We'll leave you with this note, ladies and gentlemen. Kickers are like toilet paper. If they're covered in shit, just get more. With that, we'll say good night. See you guys.